what you hear from like Bashar and Abraham Hicks, which are amazing, amazing people to get information from. I'm just giving you another layer of that effect. So if you have a difficult time understanding when they're just saying things like, you just do the thing that you love, you follow the thing that you love, you just keep moving through, your vortex, and you just are happy and you do the thing that makes you happy, but that's not getting you the results that you want. I like to try to explain it from a standpoint of psychology, from making decisions, from how the decisions that you make can affect how you shift a timeline. So if you're trying to like figure out how to understand timeline shifting and how you want to do it by choices or by emotions, then I do a really good job of explaining it from that perspective. That's all. Doesn't mean that other perspectives are wrong. It's just for people that have brains like mine. I'm very neurodivergent. I'm a problem solver. I have to understand why I do the things I do before I can change the way that I do the things that I do. So this is for people who are like me, who just need that different type of explanation. So there's a video right before this live that you can check out, where I talked about making choices, making a triple choice from every situation that you're in and seeing how that choice will take you from one timeline to the next timeline. You can take a look at that today. What I'm going to talk about is the emotional standpoint of how that chooses timelines for you. When you become an emotional person, when you relate to the situations that are going on around you via your emotions, which charge the situation, which keep you either in the timeline you're in or shift you to what we would consider a lower or a non-productive timeline, or a higher productive one that you would want to be in, the thing that you want to create, that you want to manifest. Now, I am of the opinion that we only manifest things that are in our path to be manifested to begin with. So I don't look at it as people saying, you can manifest whatever you want. I don't want to manifest being a football player on a football team. That's not something that's in my timelines. That's not something that's in my path that I even incarnated here to decide to want to do, anyways. So when I say create your reality and manifest whatever you want, I believe it's those thoughts that are already given to us through inspiration, through our higher selves, through our connection to our soul, through our downtime and meditation. Those thoughts are the ones that we are wanting to manifest naturally anyway, because it's something that you want internally. It's something that you want to turn into. It's a person that you want to be. It's a thing that you want. Not everybody wants a mansion and a Lambo. I want to live on a farm. Not everybody wants to live on a farm. So it's the things that you are naturally wanting to have in your life, anyways, is what I'm talking about when I say create your reality, create whatever you want. I believe that you have that ability to create whatever you want because it's already lined up in your soul for you to be able to create that here on earth, because I believe earth is supposed to be a playground. It's just in a rough spot at the moment, if you will, if you see everything collapsing around us like it is, which is exactly what's supposed to be happening right now. So, without further ado, let's talk about how your emotions will shift that for you. And this is why when I teach creating your reality and I teach self love, I teach self development, because if you are triggered in a situation, that trigger will cause an emotion in you, and that emotion will either keep you in the same timeline, repeating the same loops over and over again, the same situation. So if you're like, every time I see my mom, I get in a fight with her and it triggers me because she says A, B, and C. And you are saying that and speaking that. And the emotional reaction you have whenever you see your mom is you get triggered and you have an emotion where you spout off or you go off on her. And then you're like, this is going to happen again and again. It's going to happen next time. It's because everything that you're doing in that situation is creating you to keep rolling on that same timeline in front of you. So your emotional reaction to whatever she is saying is keeping you on that same track. The fact that you're saying and speaking, every time this happens, every time I come into contact with my mom, we have the same issue, is keeping you on the same track, because we are experiencing right now in this moment what we already created behind us. There's a lag, right? So if you've been saying for months and months or years, every time I come into contact with my mom, we have this problem and I get triggered and my emotional state gets crazy. And then your emotional state gets crazy. You keep right on that same train track over and over and over again. So that's why I teach it in conjunction with self help. That's why I teach it with self love. That's why I teach it with learning what your triggers are and how to effectively shift those triggers. Personally, I'm a trauma intuitive. So that's what I do. I can see people's trauma and I can understand how to break that down so that they can stop the cycle from happening. And when you stop having the emotional reaction, you then change who you are. You change your reaction, you change what you're saying and doing, you stop the emotional charge, you make a logical decision, and that's how you can also shift timelines through your emotions, if that makes sense. So, I'm going to talk about this just a tiny bit more today. And I want to talk about it from the perspective of your trauma triggers, because whatever the things are that trigger you, that trigger an emotional response from you, are the things that you want to start looking at if you want to shift into a different reality, because we're consistently shifting all the time. It's like a flip book. Every single moment we're shifting, every decision, every thought, everything that we're doing, we are shifting, shifting, shifting. Okay? So your belief system dictates what you experience in the world. And if you have an emotional trauma trigger, like I'm going to use a mom as an example just because it's an easy one and I already started off with it. If you have an emotional reaction to your mom because you guys are not on the same page, you don't get along, you don't have the same understanding, okay? Every time you have that emotional reaction, it keeps you in a traumatic space, which keeps you in the exact same situation you're in with that person. And the only way to stop that is for you to understand what your trigger is and to work on healing the trigger, understanding that you no longer need that trigger to protect you in the space that you need, like in that situation with your mom. Normally, if you are going to pop off, it's because you're trying to protect yourself because there was some kind of trauma there where you're like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to handle it. I don't want to put up with her. I don't want to put up with whatever the scenario is. That's your traumatic trigger protecting you to make sure that you don't get hurt or that you don't have to go through the same thing again. So if you can pinpoint what that trigger is in you and you can understand what it creates, what emotion rises from it, what comes up from it, what are you trying to protect? If you could see the trigger and you can delve down or dive down, whatever that situation may be, if you could really dig down in there and figure out exactly what feeling that is that it's connected to and what situations it is that it's connected to and heal that and then fill it on top of it with self-love or logic. If you can't make that jump to self-love because you've not experienced it before, you've lived in a place of trauma or you're a victim or any of those things, if you can at least move to a place of logic and soothe it, you can stop having the emotionally charged reaction in the situation, and that will therefore shift the timeline. So the next time that you go in to have that scenario happen with your mom and you've done this healing work behind it, you know, well, I don't have to react the same. She's not gonna take it no matter what I do, so I don't have to react the same as I always have. I'm gonna change my reaction. I'm just not gonna react that way that I always have. And the minute you do that in that situation and you don't have the reaction, so she can't react back to that, it changes the relationship and it thereby shifts you into another timeline. So it's a psychological way of looking at shifting instead of just thinking about it as like, well, if I just think good thoughts and I just do things that I love, then I'll just move into this timeline that I want. We get stuck in other timelines because of density that builds up in our body. And some people can just discharge it. Like, there are some people who don't have to go through understanding their trauma. There are some people that don't have to dig it out. There are some people that don't have to go through A, B, C, and D. There are people that can be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stop reacting that way. I get it. I'll be in a new timeline if I just don't react to her anymore. Done." Not everybody has to dig out trauma. For me, I needed to do it. So my account, my business is for people who are like me, who see things the way that I do, who need to unpack it, who have so much trauma that it's affected them in a mental space through depression, anxiety, panic attacks, things of that nature. Okay, so if you know how to shift and you're like, I can just shift into wherever I want, boom, just be done. Don't have the emotional reaction anymore. Pick which path you want to go and just move into it and follow your intuition and keep going on that path. But for those of you who are like, that's not me. I don't know why I do what I do. I don't know why I go off on my mom every time she says those things. Trauma triggering is for you. Tracing back your trauma triggering is what you need. It's what you need to understand, number one, why you get triggered in the situation you're in. Number two, where that trigger is rooted in your chakras, rooted in your energy system. This is where I teach the energy part of it. Where is it rooted deep down inside of you? What memories is it attached to? What feelings is it attached to? When was the first time that you were told those things like, shut up, don't talk to me, nobody wants to hear you, nobody wants to listen to what I have to say? And you get triggered every time your mom's like, I don't care, I'm not listening to you. And your emotional reaction hits because you draw that trigger line all the way back to the times when you weren't heard. And what it comes back to is you don't hear me, you don't listen to me, I'm not heard by anybody. My opinions don't matter. I want to be heard. So you then start to learn how to heal that trigger. You learn how to say, okay, I'm an adult now. I have people in my life that listen to me. I have people that hear me now. I have people that understand me now. What I have to say is important. What I have to say is necessary for some other people to function because I went through it and I learned it and I want to pass that information on to other people. What I have to say is worthwhile. And then you build on top of that as to it's important. I'm important. I am important. Every single one of us is important. Every single one of us has intuition. Every single one of us is special. Every single one of us has a superpower. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm not any different than anybody else. I just learned how to tap into what I am really good at. And this is what I'm really good at. So, learning that trauma trigger, soothing it, and then filling it with self love on top is what shifts your belief system. And the belief system is what creates your reality. That's your subconscious mind. And if your subconscious mind believes that you are never heard, that no one pays attention to you, that no one will hear what you're saying, anyways, that's the reality that you're getting fed back to you. It's a loop that you get stuck in. So if you can learn what all of those loops are that you've created for yourself and your subconscious, and you can dig them out one at a time, and you can heal them layer by layer, and then you can shift it to self-love and basically implant that new belief so that your subconscious holds on to it, then you start to create that new reality as well. You shift into the timeline. So you stop having the emotional reaction that you always have. You understand you don't have to have it. And not only that, but now you believe, I don't have to engage in this. I'm worth more than this. I've done the work to get beyond this. I have interactions with love. I choose to have interactions with love. And you shift into that next timeline. And what you find is the next time it happens, you have that same reaction. You're also building the neural pathways in your brain at the same time. And you're letting the old pathways and the old emotional responses die off. And every once in a while, you'll dip back into them, and somebody will say something, your mom will say something that'll trigger you, and you'll be like, fuck, bitch. And you'll get back into it, and you'll be like, you know what? I don't like that feeling anymore because you've gone so long being displaced outside of it in a place of peace and calm and happiness, and you haven't had that reaction to push you into a mental state where you've gotten frustrated and angry, that you're like, I don't even want to go back to that. And that's when you've built the pathway in your brain to put you on a new track, which also puts you on a new timeline track. So that's the emotional way of looking at shifting timelines. And it's easier for me to explain it and see it that way because that's how I choose. That's how I know I moved to a different version of me. And I also have unpacked the denseness of the energy that my body and my mind has held on to throughout all of those years. I've unpacked the trauma. I've also filled it with self-love and shifted my belief system. So I now have a lighter physical body and mind, which means I can now connect when you really get into the spiritual part of it, you can then connect to your higher self. You basically clear out the denseness in your body so that you can lighten your frequency, which is the same thing that Reiki is. It's tuning your frequency to different layers so you can experience different timelines. It's all the same thing. Tuning your frequency, changing your thoughts, changing your belief, changing your self concept, unpacking your trauma. That's you do all of those things, making your choices, splitting your choices into three and deciding which one do I want to take, what train track is it going to put me on. It's all the same things that will all get you to the same place. So if this makes sense to you, if the way that I'm explaining it makes sense to you and you're like, yes, that's me. I need to unpack my trauma. I need to understand it. I need to understand why I do it. I need to figure out what my belief system is. I don't know what my belief system is. I don't know how to get there. That's my specialty. That is what I'm good at. So please feel free to visit my website. I have a lot of help on there. I have a lot of classes, e-courses, everything that's coming out. I'm changing everything right now so that I can help people that have had the same issue that I have, as well as with energetic weight loss, because energetic weight loss is built inside of your belief system. There's a bunch of videos on here on energetic weight loss and also on my TikTok. If you guys want to take a look at my TikTok, it's NJ Wellness. I'm leaving there though. I'm coming over to YouTube. So you can look it up now. It's got about 70,000 followers so that you find the right one. But if you like this video, if this makes sense to you, please subscribe. Please send this to somebody who you think is like-minded, who you're like, you know what, this is exactly what so-and-so needs. Please share it. I would really appreciate it. Make sure that you like the video so that it can get out there. And hopefully I will see you around soon. If you want to know how to make your decisions to shift timelines by choices, you can see my live that's right before this one. It explains it all on there. So thank you for watching. Take care of you.